Hi, Bob Akmens here of Bob Akmens Sports. Welcome to our website. We're America's #1 top sports handicapper since 1978. This is the middle part of 3 videos of our introduction, which is entitled Who We Are and How We'll Make You Money. In part 1, if you haven't watched it yet, we talk about how to choose a sports service, important things to look for. In this particular part, we'll talk a little bit about our track record over the 30 years we've been in business. And in part 3, we'll visit with Henry Hill, a character from Goodfellas, a marvelous movie, and locks in betting. So let's get started right away, and let's talk about Bob Akmens' accomplishments. I'm proud of my accomplishments in this industry since I started in 1978. I won the very first contest ever for sports services, the baseball one in 1980. I remember starting that season with a record of 44-11. Now back then, that very first sports monitor, the American Association of Documented Sports Services, the AADSS, used to post the contest results daily at the now gone Stardust in Las Vegas. And boy, did we get a lot of calls every day with that kind of a start. I also won the very first contest they ever had for hockey back in 1994, when I took a $10,000 bankroll and rolled it past $140,000. I was the first service to ever go beyond $100 grand in an AADSS contest, and the $140K figure I reached was the highest at the time in their 15 years of existence. You know, I told this to a new caller the other day, and his response was blunt, but I've heard it for 30 years. I don't care what you did in 1994. What have you done lately? Well, you should care what I did in 1994. Here's why. Because when you run across the hot service that can't lose, I guarantee you will eventually lose. And just maybe you'll never consistently win long term with that service. Which in this business surely is longer than that hot month some service may have and then do nothing else. So it's important that someone have a consistent track record. Recently we were informed by the sportseye.com, one of the 2 major monitors of sports services in the United States, that we had won our 5th straight hockey handicapping contest in a row. You heard right, #1 in 5 straight regular and postseason hockey contests at either the Sports Monitor or the Sports Eye. Now, to compete against anywhere from dozens to hundreds of other services, to even lead for a single week against all that competition, then to win a half-year-long contest, and then win 5 of those suckers in a row, how much more consistent can you possibly be? If that's not the quintessence of consistency, I don't know what is. Now, is that a better criterion for joining a service than the guy who was a hot month and everyone is chasing his performance on every online forum by living and dying bankroll-wise with each of his daily plays? Infinitely better. No one on earth has done what I've done. No one, I'm positive, except Bob Akmens Sports. You can live to be 100 and you'll never see that again. The bottom line is this: I'm most proud of the fact that I have finished on top in more categories of more documented sports handicapping contests than any service I know of. 154 of them and counting. And you can find full details of that by clicking on the Documented #1 Titles tab on any of our web pages. That's why my slogan is Making Millions for Smart Clients since 1978. Now, I'll tell you something else which shocks many people when they hear it, and I'm positive would shock the pants off of most sports service operators. Many of my clients have been with me 5, 10, even 25 or more years. Sometimes I'll get a call from someone new, and while I'm telling them about the service, one of the other phone lines will ring, and it will happen to be one of these very many long-term clients I have. And I'll put both phones on speakerphone, and I'll ask my long-term buddy a simple question out loud so both callers can hear it. How long have we been together? And when that client answers me and says something like, oh, I don't know, 15, 20 years, it just dazzles the new caller. I had to laugh when a new guy recently came back with, what, did you guys grow up together? Well, yes, as a matter of fact, we have. People stay with me for one reason only, not because I'm a nice guy, but because I win more than I lose. That's a simple equation, folks. If you win more than you lose, people will come coming back for more. Now, the more I think about it, I've probably made tens of millions for the many thousands of clients I've had in the past 3 decades. It may even be hundreds of millions. Consider that 3 decades times thousands of clients equals a ton of profits. I know one particular client has made literally millions. I can remember the day I first spoke to him. It was in October of '79, and the Orioles had just taken a 3-1 lead over the Pirates in the series. and he needed a winner in Game 5, or as he put it, a lock winner. He actually used an old-time expression you don't hear much these days. He said he had bet his lungs on the first 4 games and lost 3 of them. Not his lungs, folks, since he had both left, but games. And you know, I recall just what I told him. There are no locks in your betting life. I learned the no locks in life lesson during the 78-79 college hoop season. You see, I grew up in the Bronx, lived there through my college days, and spent a bunch of time on Arthur Avenue, where they sold the best cannolis around. Now let's just say I knew some guys there who were involved in not-so-legal activities. 1978 was my first year in this business, and while I didn't know him personally, I knew people who dealt with Henry Hill. If the name sounds vaguely familiar, think of the Ray Liotta character in Goodfellas, that marvelous movie. That's Henry Hill. One of my all-time favorite flicks, by the way. De Niro and Pesci in that flick were a lot like the guys I knew back then. Now we're going to end part 2 of this video here. Part 3, we'll talk about Henry Hill's Lock of the Millennium and what happened. You don't want to miss it. I want to thank you very much for visiting the website. Look around, look at our content, look at the site, look at the various pages, and I know you'll find something that's interesting. Thank you so much for visiting.